Hello everyone, I couldn't find a good way to set this, the cover of this up nicely. So this is a post-season retrospective of a couple games and the broader season in the RTT Respect the Trash League. This draft league, I've got the thumbnail here. I was playing with a mono ground type draft, even in a format where many of the mono ground type Pokemon were banned, because the specific rule of this format was that you were monotype, except you weren't allowed to run offensive attacking moves of the same type as your monotype. So that means that up here, yeah, Earthquake was banned, and I would literally die. They would come to my house and shoot me with a gun if I tried to click it, if I even thought of clicking it, if I even contemplated the idea of going Stomping Tantrum or Earth Power or Sandsear Storm or anything. Bulldoze even was one that I dreamed of the days in which I was legally allowed to click Bulldoze. At every point in that, I was denied and I was shut down. So why did I wind up drafting one of the worst types in the game? No one knows. I actually don't know. I could not tell you why I wound up deciding the correct type. I just realized this is that's correct. The original type I wanted to use was Ghost. Someone else wanted it, so they wound up bidding a higher amount for it, and then I just sort of picked Ground because I've never used Mono Ground before. It turns out a lot of ground moves are good, so there are a lot of Pokemon who were Mono Ground type Pokemon that were banned because that prevented other people from being able to use their Ground type moves. For example, Zygarde was banned because if Mono Dragon drafted it, then it would be able to click Thousand Arrows, which sucked for me because I would have loved to be able to use Zygarde. It was pretty good, obviously, in my Mono Dragon team. And I'm not the problem. Like, I wouldn't be allowed to use Thousand Arrows, so there's no reason for it to be banned. Landorus Incarnate was also banned, which I didn't realize before the draft started, which is actually part of why I wound up opting for this. So I just wound up with Landorus Therian, who, the problem was that the Mono Flying team, who tried to steal Lando from me, by the way. This was a sync draft, so that's where every round you sort of bid on Pokemon in like a simultaneous blind draft. So I wound up having to pay extra for Lando. So the Mono Flying team, even in this situation where they're very, very clearly a far advantage to me, was still trying to steal from me and take my poor Landorus, even though they are the Mono Flying team who can use ground moves. So I wound up with this with no stab. We were allowed to run Terra. We had voted just before the season started to allow a mascot captain, which was a Pokemon that was not your stab type, but had to Terra Ground. So it meant that your other Pokemon would not be able to Terra Ground and would not be able to Terra Stellar. Terra Stellar is a pretty good Terra because it adds a lot of offensive potential, and Terra Ground can be a good defensive Terra on, say, a Pokemon like Lando, who is otherwise 4 times weak to Ice, but if it's only 2x weak to Ice, is often going to be taking that move that's 2x effective into it. When the season started, I picked Regieleki because it was very cheap. Regieleki sucked. It was really bad. It just wasn't worth using basically any time. I think I won like 2 individual games while I had the Regieleki, and then like the first week that I won was when I didn't bring Regieleki. It was like bad into mono water. That's how bad it was. So I wound up going with Grimmsnarl. I used to also have, I think it was, instead of Stunfisk, a Tinglu. The Regieleki was very cheap because it was originally tiered around Mono Electric, not being able to run electric moves. I think Stunfisk, it never hit the field, but was probably slightly better than Regieleki, just in general, because it has access to like water moves and stuff. It's just kind of okay. But Grimmsnarl was actually quite an interesting pick. Then beyond that, yeah, I got Lando because I wanted to Intimidate. I got Gastrodon because I wanted a water immunity. I got Silvally, which was very cheap because it's not allowed to run multi-attack and it can only be Silvally ground. But it's just one of the few Tailwind options that were even like vaguely interesting. And now you can hear the police on the ambulance. That's sure is. The ambulance went slower. It's the joy of living near several hospitals. I'm also like in the middle of moving. Not exactly moving. I've got some construction going on right next to where my desk is set up. So I'm gonna have to like move my desk. And I started moving all the stuff around my desk, including the thing that my microphone was set up on. So I had to like reset up my microphone somewhere else so that I could actually record. But yeah, you guys don't really care that much. But yeah, so Tailwind, and then the only Trick Room setter were Claydol, which I just wasn't drafting because it's really bad, and Toadscruel. So then I have Toadscruel here, which gives me Redirection and gives me Trick Room. However, it's very physically frail, and it's not that specially strong, and it's very difficult to set up. So throughout the season, I really struggled when using it. I often found that I was sort of dying around it, even with I had like Ting Lu support for the special defense clearance, and then Intimidate from Lando, and it would still struggle through that. Then we've also got, yeah, Ursaluna Blood Moon, major offensive piece. The reason these Pokemon, these 4, and then Ting Lu was also here, were drafted really late was because in the first couple seasons, there was someone else who's Mono Flying, someone else who's Mono Water. Anyone could pick up Silvally. There was a Mono Steel team, and there was a Mono Ice team. The Mono Steel team took Excadrill, but I think it's just terrible. Even with Earthquake, like, it really needs its dual stab. But, you know, and my autoplay music list has stopped. That's really weird. Alright. So, yeah. No Mono Fire, no Mono Normal, no Mono Poison, and no Mono Grass, which is really weird, funny to me. I've never done Mono Fire or Mono Grass, but Mono Normal and Mono Poison. Like, Mono Poison had a really strong season. Wound up winning a league with it, so, you know, definitely pretty decent option, but maybe less so in VGC, because that was a singles league. But yeah, I mostly just sort of wanted big offensive options, and that's sort of what I went around after I got the basic defensive synergy and speed control. So, week 1. No, not week 1. These are just 4 games from throughout the season. In fact, this is in the exact opposite order in which I meant to play it. So this is one of my earlier weeks. This was, I think, the first week after I made transactions. If not, it was the second week after I made transactions. And I'm playing against the Mono Steel team, coached by Sly, who is an incredible player. Someone who recently won a draft in a different league than I'm in. Actually won the BFR season that went to video with the best, you know, the boss and the princess and what have you. You know, the leadership conference. That's what I think the joke was supposed to be. Yeah. Very strong player, and this is they've just in game 1 and game 2. This is the game 3 of the set, which I guess I must have won. Didn't necessarily know if I did. I don't remember. But they have been just absolutely slamming me with. This might be the wrong game. It might have been supposed to be game 2. But we'll just have to. No, I think both game 2 and game 3 are good games, and I wound up deciding on it. Yeah. So they've been spamming Surf, and then they have their Terrasteel and Latios, and they've just been slamming Surf with Empoleon with Latios. And that's just been sort of how they've been going, and they also had revealed that they had a Scarf, Offensive, Brave Bird, Corviknight. The idea with the Brave Bird Corviknight is it has Unnerve, so it can prevent me from being able to eat a Cobra Berry with Toadscruel, which is to say, just in general, or a Yachi Berry, right? So if they lead it next to Latios, it's very difficult for me to set Trick Room, even with the Grimmsnarl support, unless I'm Focus Sash, because either the it can't Terra if that lead happens, and the double up will always do it. So sorry, there's a lot of maths that went into it. They had very sort of strong prep to be able to go around it, but was disrupted by a potential Focus Sash. So this is meant to be on fast, not hyper fast. My apologies. Yeah, so they have the lead that we sort of expected. I actually went for the thing that they put Terra this as their nickname to remind themselves that if you don't Terra your your like mascot Pokemon, then you do have to forfeit that particular game. So they've got that nickname there to remind them. Oh yeah, I didn't mention this. I nicknamed all my Pokemon. Okay, I nicknamed them after smaller music artists, but as a joke, I had Gastrodon, who I don't think appears in the shout games, who was named Jid, because people keep saying Jid is like coming up, but he's just already a very popular and, you know, good musician, right? And then I also had Dochi because last year she won the I think it was like Rookie of the Year award or whatever at the Grammys. You know, an artist I very heavily respect. Really enjoyed her mixtape, as well as you know, her music before the mixtape, which is maybe different to what a lot of people may have expected if they were going to before the mixtape. And obviously her Single Anxiety, which I had heard before the remaster but hadn't necessarily connected with, was very popular for a while this year. And the remaster, was cool to actually have the Australian legend you know, sort of working and approving that. And the music video was really nice as well. But yes, so then I've got here LaRussell. It's very funny. While I was playing the season, like near the end of the season, James Gunn tweeted about a number of sort of, not what I call it underground, what I call like indie musicians. So LaRussell is Bay Area, absolute legend. Produces so many like, you know, I think he's put out like a couple different collab albums just this year, of which I haven't even listened to all of them, but I've listened to several, and it's good fun. You know, he was on another one of the Pokemon that you'll see later. I've got Grimmsnarl, and he was on like Rayvorn's album earlier this year. He's just always makes like a really fun track when he hops on, and makes just really enjoyable music in general. So yes, we got here Lando Russell. So what I did here is they didn't know that I had the Scarf Lando, so then I could combine this. So they had the Scarf Fake Tears to be able to make it so that Toedscruel would faint to the Ice Beam. But because they were forced to Terra Steel, I knew that I could always lock the Scarf superpower into the Lando. Even though this means that my Lando is stuck at -1/-1, is Scarf, so it's stuck, like stuck, in something, in words. It's locked into superpower and is going to be moving fast because it's the Trick Room. So even with all of that, I am still able to sort of outposition my opponent. They brought pretty good anti-Trick Room options in this really strong Heatran with Life Orb and with the Empoleon here. Now, I don't know what they went for with Empoleon that turn. Oh no, they switched it in, that's right. Yeah. Like even then, like Leaf Storm is doing very little to Empoleon. And I have to sort of play here around the damage coming out of the Heatran, because I'm not allowed to run Earth Power on Brazen. Brazen Barbie is an Australian rapper who I think a little bit, like I think during the draft even, dropped her debut mixtape Brazen, which I've absolutely been playing the hell out of. I bought it on Bandcamp, as I'm likely to do when I have like these actual underground new artists, especially. You know, I love to support Australian artists where I can, but just, you know, I think any of these ones who are smaller than, no, is it true? I don't think I've bought anything of LaRussell's on Bandcamp. You know, I try to do a little bit of financial support for artists who are very small and are making music that I'm enjoying. But yes, I wound up going with the very high Fizz-Def Body Press as my sort of main damage option here, because if they did have a way to, I don't remember if they have a Ghost type, but presumably they have like Aegis Lash or something. But even if they do, then I can obviously hit that with a Fire move. And then with the max defense, I'm able to take hits from many of their Pokemon pretty reliably. So I'm just able to sort of then get that Leaf Storm with the double up from from the Toedscruel, which is just still kind of crazy. And luckily I do get more sleep on the Heatran, so there it went for a Protect, but it still slept, which meant that I was able to get damage onto it pretty reliably. I think even if it hadn't gotten the sleep there, that wouldn't have mattered. Sorry, had gotten the Protect there and woken up, that likely wouldn't have changed the outcome of the game, because I did still have the Camerupt, which I think took an Earth Power, but it also was Life Orb. So if it did, they didn't threaten to KO my Lando that turn, because the Corv, as we saw, was doing not that much damage. So the Corv would have still died. So realistically, this was the best game that Toedscruel had all season. I was able to protect it effectively with the Lando, and then was able to use the Trick Room with the Camerupt. This is the only game where Camerupt really came in and didn't just immediately die. I was able to play around all their really strong offensive things, including this crazy Empoleon, by deciding to leave the Grimmsnarl on the back, rely on the offensive Scarf Pokemon into Trick Room, and then play through this really strong set. So there's a lot of creativity there that certainly I wouldn't have had to do against a Mono Steel team if I was allowed to click ground moves, given that they had, you know, Latios and Corviknight as their only ground checks, which, as we saw, were not the most difficult for my other Pokemon to deal with. So it wound up being pretty creative in terms of that set, so that was pretty fun. Then the next set that I wanted to spotlight was against the person who stole Mono Ghost, the Monotype that I wanted, drafted several grass types. And this was a problem in a few weeks where I played against a lot of different grass types, and they could be a real problem. They can definitely be a struggle. This one we actually put on Terra Preview, which there actually was technically no need to Terra Preview, but sort of shows which Pokemon are going to be tearing into their Monotype for defense, whereas which Pokemon are going to be using Stellar to get the offenses up. And that can tell you a little bit about what they're planning to do with that Pokemon, the sort of the game plan they revolve around. But the one thing that my opponent noticed, which eager-eyed viewers may have also noticed, it's slightly unlucky that there was a 50% chance. Your Pokemon have any Pokemon that can be of different genders on Showdown, it gets randomized 50-50 as to whether they will be male or female gender. However, on this team, I have 3 Pokemon who are always male gender, being Nidoking, who's 100% male, Grimmsnarl, which I didn't actually realize for a long time was 100% male, and still kind of weird to me that it is. Frankly, I know that's meant to be like a counterpart to Hatterene, but I also don't think Hatterene has to be 100% female. But yeah. And then Lando. And then Lando, Thundurus, and Thundurus are all 100% male. So my opponent brought a very funny strat, which luckily did not wind up breaking the game for me, but you see that they manually made all their Pokemon female. So I come in with an offensive Grimmsnarl with Frisk, so I'm able to see what items my opponent is running, and I'm immediately like, okay, well, given that they have the Mental Herb on the Sinistra, I think it's very likely that the Sinistra is going to be setting Trick Room here, and then they've got the safety goggles on Runerigus, which I frisked, sorry. So I'm more worried about it, being set upset like this, but I'm not that worried because I do have the offensive Grimmsnarl, and my offensive Grimmsnarl has Darkest Lariat, which I've just shown there, and Darkest Lariat ignores defense stage races, so even though they're likely to be putting out very strong body presses here, it's not going to be stopping me from being able to deal with the Runerigus. Oh yeah, nicknames, yeah, Rayvaughn, one of the Ts, he got signed this year. I really liked his sort of debut mixtape, The Good, The Bad, The Dollar Menu. Really, really good. I recommended it to a few different people. I think probably the big one that is like a more general listen is Look, and then the @ God, so Look at God. More like fun bop of it, but man, some like the what is it? I think I remember seeing a reviewer being like, yes, this song is made exactly for for like that white rap nerd to listen to of the Flat Shasta, which is about Rayvaughn and his mother's deteriorating mental state. And that one was a real tearjerker, and it's got plenty of good songs there, like Janky Moral Compass, which has another one of the players on this team, and Rayvaughn and Nidoking, as well as another one of our Pokemon who I don't know if it's the field in this battle, but they were both in the XXL freshman this year, so that's pretty cool. Eam literally, after the season is finished, literally on Friday, dropped a new music video of one of their songs. I listened to their debut album earlier this year. Was it the debut album? But it was their album earlier this year, Melodies of a Memory. I thought it was really well produced. I think Eam has a really great sort of presence. They were the only one for the XXL freshman, like, as they came in, I'd heard of Jello Ball, as had basically everyone, I think. And I had already had some familiarity with Rayvaughn and with Samara Sin, who is the other one on this team who's on the Good, the Bad, the Dollar Menu as well. But Eam was the one who I like watched through, and I'm like, oh man, Eam, has got a good bit of flow, got a good bit of, like I enjoyed listening to him in the freshman freestyle. So I went in and checked out Melody of the Memory. I've been enjoying it. I'm pretty keen, so seeing what's going on there. And then Nidoking's also good. So here I'm just trying to consistently put out that damage. They didn't bring any Pokemon that could take a Shadow Ball. I don't even remember what their mascot Pokemon was. I remember looking at the different mascot Pokemon and thinking that they were probably going to take the one, but that was many weeks ago. This was an 11-week season. I'm only showing 4 games. The ability to just really isolate out the fairy types is really funny, but they reveal Attract here, which is effective against, like I said, Nidoking and Rayvaughn. It did Perish Me, which is really funny as well. So I could theoretically, with worse luck, have had a really bad matchup into this Attraction. They do frisk me, and they see my Life Orb and my Assault Vest. I think Assault Vest is generally what I run if I'm running a more offensive Grimmsnarl. Sometimes I might run it with just Protect, but definitely Assault Vest is more common. But then I'll wind up getting the roll with the second Darkest Lariat there, which is pretty good. Oh yeah, and then Driz does just sort of pop by for this. Driz is another Australian artist who hasn't released like a debut project, but they've released a couple singles there on the younger side. But it's been fun sort of checking out what's been going on. I think they've got a couple singles that I listened to and were pretty fun. They released one while the season was ongoing as well, so that was nice to see. Now we have the Mono Electric. So, most weeks, you're like, okay, the Mono Steel team probably doesn't really mind losing access to Steel type moves, because Steel type moves, it's one of the weaker offensive types in the game. The Mono Electric team, on the other hand, is completely happy, dandy even, that our the Mono Electric team, completely happy with not running electric type moves into a mono electric team. Mono ground team, because all my Pokemon are immune to their electric type moves. So they're coming in. I think at this point they may have been undefeated, but at the very least they were definitely the top seed coming into this week. I think they may have won, I don't really remember. But they had a really, really strong season. We wound up being very close. I think just 11 weeks is a lot. And yeah, they have had a crazy team. I don't even remember what it's the field team. But yeah. So yeah, Lando. So here's Kaikash. So earlier this year, so they've let their fake out or potential follow me. They have the ability to use coaching with Pawmot into Electivire and then go for a really big damage into Iron Treads, or to fake out and go for an Ice Punch into Lando. So those are sort of the things that I'm playing around in this position. And I bring a pretty fun Lando set. One that you can't do in the regular format, but this is National Dex. So all the Pokemon are allowed, and a lot of their old gen moves are allowed. Not all of them, but most of them. Like my Nidoking can't run Lovely Kiss because the rules were made to discriminate against ground specifically. But yes, so such a specific interaction. I miss a Lovely Kiss Nidoking. So I'm trying to play around the fake out, but not too hard, because I do see the Clear Amulet here. So I just go for Scarf Explosion. And I did check with these particular Pokemon. I didn't need to go for Terrastellar, but I did even have Terrastellar to increase the damage of the Scarf Explosion in case they did have one of their bulkier Pokemon out, like a Vikavolt or like a defensive invested Thundurus. So not needing to use my Terra there was definitely pretty good. Then they go for a Coaching, which fails, which also would have been the same as if they fake out there. But then I bring in Blood Moon Ennals. So Brian Ennals and Infinity Knives are a rap duo from, was it Maryland? Oh, am I a fake fan? Might be a fake fan. But yeah, they are definitely more maybe on the underground side. I don't really remember what the difference is between underground and indie, but their album earlier this year, A City Drowned in God's Black Tears, is so goddamn good. I think maybe my favorite album this year. It is genuinely incredible. They go into a number of different music genres. They speak in a very very honest and frank way. I love the they have and this is also true for the Good, the Bad, the Dollar Menu, but they've occasionally got clips of just people ragging on them as the skips or transitions between things. But man, songs like A City Drowned, God's Black Tears, or Terravoga, or it starts out with the I know it's a play on Iron Wall, but I can't actually remember what the first track is called off the top of my head. But I mean, it's very straight up in your face, letting you know what the what a lot of the album is about, which is just accurately speaking towards people. It's just the Iron Wall. It's very, very, very good album. And then Kai Cash is a New York guy, younger rapper. Look, so far, I don't think he's done any, I think he released an EP earlier this year. I first found him through, he was one of the people in the Joey Badass sort of, conflict? That's not what you call it. Was it? There was a series of disses and stuff, but it wasn't a real diss feud. Brave Warren also quite prominent in there, and I started listening to Rayvon a little bit before that popped off, so that was pretty cool to see him get respect from Joey as well. Even if Goldeneye is not very good. Yeah, so hi Cash, New York guy, younger guy. I think he's certainly got the rap skill, but I think what I was mostly missing was, a lot of the production. I think East Coast production is it's pretty stale these days, outside of like Griselda. There's not really any New York stuff where I'm like, man, this is a nice and upcoming New York production. I just feel like I need a little bit more depth there, a little bit more innovation from that New York sort of area before I'm like really digging it. But Kai can rap. I think a little bit more substance to it, which frankly is true for Driz, but Driz has simply produced less. A little bit more depth to it from an emotional perspective, or a little bit stronger narrative telling. I think it's really what Kai needs to make an album that's like great, rather than just one that's, oh yeah, it's good, but it was still fun. He's got a good energy to him. I think, gosh, did he feature on something? I think I saw him like as surprisingly feature on another album I listened to this year, but I don't remember which one. I've been like, oh yeah. Yeah, no, I don't remember which one. I think I did see him on someone else's thing though. So, shout him out. Yeah, this guy Cash. Yeah, throw the Stone Edge out, but the Grass Knot, for as broken a move as Grass Knot is, it just isn't doing enough here. So I'm able just to get 2 Stone Edges in, and the Chardy Berry doesn't wind up being relevant. The Blood Moon, they've clearly invested it so the Blood Moon doesn't take, but then the Vacuum Wave is able to finish picking up. Actually, I think they haven't invested. I think I'm actually reasonably bulky, which helped me take that Grass Knot. But even then, I still had a Mon in the back, which I think may have been Samara Sylve, or may have been Jid. So definitely another really strong game against a very strong opponent who does not suffer at all in that particular matchup from the limitation of losing stab. And then this was my literal last game of the season, where I looked at this matchup, and it has several Pokemon I hate playing against. Most of all, Great Tusk. Great Tusk is so defensive. It's so hard to kill. My team is very physically oriented outside of the Ursaluna. I've got Lando, who can run special, but is really oriented around physical. I've got Grimmsnarl, who can run special, but is like such a strong physical attack as well. I've got Iron Treads, who's just physical. The only special move you see him popping off with is like Steel Beam, when it's max attack invested. And that's not necessarily something I can afford to do here. Savalai is definitely a mixed attacker, but Piloswine, very physical as well. So I have just the greatest game of my life. Alright, so we do have Samara Sylve here. Samara Sin, another new artist, another one on the XSL freshman list. I think EP was last year. I think it was 2024. But it was good listening to it. I know she released a single pretty recently. I actually don't know if it was just a single or if it was a new single, or if it was just the music video, because I did just watch the music video when it came out. That was Vitamins and Minerals. I think she's had a couple different singles this year for sure. But yeah, I think she had the EP, or might even have been. Sorry, I meant earlier. I said EP one of the time, so one of the times I meant LP. The Kai Cash, I think, was an LP. But yeah, released, I think, might be called an album, might be called an EP. Last year, Samara Sin was pretty good, and then yeah, she's been releasing singles pretty regularly throughout this year. Frankly, subscribing to artists on YouTube is crazy, because like people will just be making music that I would have no idea about if I wasn't subscribed to them on YouTube. In terms of like singles. But yeah. So yeah, I have the Grimmsnarl. They reveal the Prosynthesis attack. And this is game 3 of like a really strong set so far. But I have this one tech that I've been saving this whole set. Now, we see no item on Great Tusk. I believe the Zapdos is Life Orb, so it's not Covert Cloak. The Galade's Clear Amulet. At this point, I'm like not sure if they do have one. But I think that if they do have one, maybe the Blaziken is Cover Cloak. I'm like really not sure. But here I'm just like, okay, what Pokemon can actually knock me out? So the thing I'd be most worried about, I'm still a little bit worried. I think I'd already seen Life Orb, or whatever item the Zapdos had, but I think I was technically still a little bit worried about it having some crazy stuff. But just go for Fake Out, get my speed control up, prevent Great Tusk getting a KO this turn, and then how do I prevent Great Tusk getting a KO next turn? I bust out Wonder Room. Now, guys, many people who have watched Pokemon, who have played VGC, will have known Trick Room, the move which inverts the speed order of the Pokemon in a turn, right? Maybe you even have seen, like I've played against someone before, where they clicked Magic Room, which turns off the interactions of items. That was, in that case, a tech in singles against Gliscor to prevent its Toxic Orb going off. And that was, reasonably impactful. It does, it made it easier for them to try and like threaten a knockoff and get value out of it, especially if they did manage to get that knockoff into Gliscor. But you probably have never before seen Wonder Room. Wonder Room. This is, frankly, oh yes, also the Zapdos, and there were a few other Pokemon that were naturally faster than Silvally, which wound up not being faster than Silvally in prep. But Wonder Room reverses the defense and special defense, which one you're attacking. So this Psychic Fangs, which would normally hit against Great Tusk's incredible physical defense, is instead hitting against its much weaker special defense. And then they're coming out with the Brave Bird, but I'm special defense invested on Silvally. So because I have special defense investment, my Silvally lives. And Grimmsnarl also has much better, I think is slightly better natural special defense than physical defense. So I'm able to take this on the basis of my special defense investment on both of these slots, and able to do so much more to them because of their physical defense being more lackluster. And then yeah, I sort of called that they're going to go for the Protect with Great Tusk, so I did actually slot both of these at Zapdos, but like you saw, it didn't wind up mattering. Now, the Intimidate is nice because it does somewhat mitigate the Great Tusk damage, but it does still have a Photosynthesis boost, which is pretty annoying. With Tailwind up, they don't necessarily know who's going to be faster, but I then go for that Prankster Thunder Wave to get that speed control into Gallade. Now, the problem with Gallade is, now that I have a Pokemon with really bad special defense in, we have seen that this is Scarf Ice Spinner on Lilligant, so it will likely be throwing that out into Lando, and Lilligant's naturally faster, so it will move first. At -1, I live, but I'm not -1, so I don't. Or actually, it might not be Scarf. I don't remember now. But Gallade normally has incredible special defense. I'm pretty sure it's 110 special defense normally, and 65 defense, physical defense. And because of that being swapped around, now the Gallade, now that it's slower guaranteed than Ursaluna, means that it's not able to live a Blood Moon. So here, I go, so I go for this, and I go for a Hyper Voice, because we've seen previously that that it isn't enough to pick up the Lilligant just with Psychic. And luckily they go for a Protect, though I did also have the chance of them going a Para. And then I'm able to Blood Moon and get a KO there, using Wonder Room on the last turn of Wonder Room. Just absolutely incredible to be able to pull out an incredibly niche move that many people would not have ever seen, that can only make sense because I'm in a matchup where my opponent has a team basically only of like physical attackers and then like that Torkoal, where they didn't have the ability to sort of have a more balanced either defensive investment, like where their Pokemon often are very either physically defensive or specially defensive, not both. And they were so overwhelmingly physical attackers that I was able to bring a bunch of different specially defensive Pokemon. And that was just really fun to be able to pull that off. Pulling out a Blood Moon one-shot into the Gallade, which otherwise would take like 70%. Very, very special. So that, sort of sealed in me the fact that I wanted to bring this series and be able to highlight the different Pokemon that I brought. I didn't get a show... Did we even talk about the camera up nickname? I'm not sure we did, actually. Is this game camera ups? No. This game's camera ups. Camera ups. Oh yeah, it was Brazen. Yeah, okay. We didn't talk about Brazen. not appearing in the field, we did also have Stun Mike Eagle, which is Open Mike Eagle, who was another one shouted out by James Gunn, who is incredible indie rapper as well as rap commentator on YouTube. Released an album earlier this year, Neighborhood Gods Unlimited, which he said he sort of styled and was like would have loved to make into a TV show, and frankly, I think that would be amazing. I really enjoyed it, and the narrative of it is really solid. But even beyond that, even beyond that, good music videos, and just in general, I've been enjoying checking them out. So definitely worth listening to Neighborhood Gods Unlimited. Definitely worth checking out the Open Mike Eagle channel, as well as I can't remember off the top of my head what his second channel is called, but I'm like checking that out as well from time to time. Really helped me sort of find and learn about more music that I didn't know about as it was coming out as well, and just made another incredible album this year. So thank you guys all for watching. It's been really solid. I had a very sort of bad run when I had Ting Loser and Regieleki, but after I made transactions, I wound up having a pretty solid run. So I think 4 transactions, I went 1-3, and then after transactions, I went 6-1, which is just so many games. And had a really fun season. I mean, 7-4 doesn't feel like an amazing record, but it is solid. A lot of the other coaches did wind up going 7-4. I didn't wind up wanting to stick around for playoffs because it just would have been rematches, and I had no interest in that. But I'm really glad that I wound up playing this season. I'm glad that I finally got the chance to try Mono Ground, even though I do think, unfortunately, Mono Ground is not very good. Thank you guys all for watching. We'll be back with VBL playoffs next week.